I believe the biggest problem in the world is that people don't understand themselves enough. This show is designed to help you understand your INFJ personality, heal from your past, and create a life that you love. I'm Sarah Kuhn, and this is the Quiet Ones Podcast. In this episode, we are talking about 5 reasons to door slam someone. Let's start with a quick review of what a door slam actually is. A door slam is an INFJ cutting someone out of their life completely, often without any discussion or warning. So this includes blocking phone numbers, unfollowing, and blocking on all social media and email, and sometimes even moving to a different place depending on the situation. It's basically cutting off any and all communication that you have with the person and any type of way for them to connect with you as well. An important thing to remember is that the door slam can be applied to anyone in the INFJ's life. Whether it's family, friends, a significant other, we really don't discriminate. The door slam is a way for INFJs to cut toxic people out of their lives. Now, INFJs will give everything to their people, but when we are hurt over and over and over again, there comes a point when we just decide that we can't take it anymore. We can't take any more hurt from the person, and it has to stop. This hurt can be caused by many things. Usually it's something big like betrayal, if the person is a narcissist, or any kind of toxic presence. It usually takes something really big for an INFJ to cut somebody out of their life like that. I've spoken to a few INFJs, and I found that some have different ways of doing this. And the more I thought about it, I guess I really do too. I always think of a door slam as an abrupt and complete event, blocking somebody's phone number and cutting off all communication, never to be heard from again. But that's really not always the case. Sometimes it's a slow process that is more like just ignoring somebody until they go away, not engaging with them even if you were forced to be around them, and not returning text messages or phone calls. Not hanging out with them either, or going places that you know they will be at. Most of the door slams that I have experienced actually have been more abrupt. I told you guys in the first episode of the first season of this podcast about my older sister. She has a substance abuse problem. And because of that problem, it makes her very mean and violent. And once she started to get that way, I cut her completely out of my life. A lot of it too is she's unreasonable and you can't talk to her at all. And she says things that just don't make any sense. So for me, I spent a lot of time trying to talk to her, trying to reason with her, trying to get her to see that, she was doing something wrong. She needed help. She still needs help. And she just didn't want to listen. When you're dealing with somebody like that, they have to recognize that they have a problem before you can help them. And she refuses to recognize that she has a problem. So for me, she was so toxic and so verbally abusive to me, and it was taking so much of my energy worrying about her and trying to help her. And I realized one day she doesn't want help. So there's nothing that I can do to help her until she decides that she wants help. So it was kind of like this realization of, what am I doing here? Why am I wasting so much energy on her when she doesn't want that help? So what I did was just blocked her phone number and quit talking to her. And, I told the people around me that were important to me, like my parents and my other siblings, like, I'm not talking to her anymore. Don't give her my phone number. I mean, it doesn't matter because it's blocked on my phone, but I cut her off on all of my social media and blocked her so that she can't contact me. And that was it. It was like a one-day thing that was like, this is it. It's over. End of story. So it was a very abrupt thing. It does seem kind of extreme sometimes, especially when I tell people about it. A lot of people don't understand. But I always tell them too, you have to know my sister. You have to understand the situation before you can understand why I did that. That was one of the examples that I had that was very abrupt. I've also had some abrupt departures from some toxic jobs that I've had. It seems like I have attracted a lot of toxic jobs in my lifetime. I've had quite a few of them, honestly. And with those kind of jobs and those environments where you have a boss who's narcissistic and you work with a bunch of people who don't respect you, I don't really have a problem with walking away abruptly. I know that, especially in the United States, the professional thing to do is to give 2 weeks notice and to make sure that you have good references and all of that. I've worked in some jobs where I wouldn't trust anybody to give me a good reference. Not because I don't do a good job, just because, of their personality. When you're working with somebody who's narcissistic, they're not going to say nice things about you anyway, regardless of what you do. That doesn't really bother me so much. So I have walked away from a couple of places where, in fact, the last job that I had, they bugged me to do an exit interview. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I said it very politely quite a few times. I told them, I politely decline. I'm not interested in talking about why I'm leaving. And I did give 2 weeks notice there too. And the HR manager was not a very nice person. And she bugged me. And then the director of the organization tried to corner me. And he was like, well, no, we're going to talk about this. And I was like, no, I really, I don't have time. I'm not interested. So finally they sent me a questionnaire, like an exit interview questionnaire to fill out. And then they bugged me to fill that thing out. And I was like, finally I get to the point where I was like, why won't you guys take no for an answer? And, we have this saying, we don't ask an INFJ for the truth because they're going to tell you. and so this questionnaire was 4 pages when they sent it to me, 4 pages of questions. And by the time I was done filling it out, it was 10 pages because, I had so many reasons why I was leaving, and I wasn't going to send it. And then the day before my last day, I live in Boston, and it was in February. No, it was January. It was January, actually. And the forecast for the last Thursday that I was going to work there was supposed to be a wind chill of negative 25 degrees. And I rode the train into work, and then I had to walk several blocks to get to work. And a lot of people who worked for that company did that as well, except for the directors. They all had these really nice cars. So I had asked the director, hey, I haven't seen an email or anything. I know we have a policy of if schools are closed, we don't have to work, or we can work from home. And I haven't seen anything about that. And I know, that the forecast tomorrow is going to be pretty rough. And he looks at me and he goes, yeah, it's going to be cold, but you live in Boston, so buy a coat. If you're worried about it, buy a coat. And I'm like, okay, all right, okay. So, the more I thought about it, the more I thought, wow, that is so rude. He drives a Mercedes to work every day. And here I am riding the train and having to walk several blocks in that kind of weather, and that's his response? And then, so I actually did show up to work the next day with my coat that I already had, and he sends this email that he's working from home because it's cold outside. And I was like, are you kidding me? You really have to be kidding me. Seriously. So I was looking at that exit interview paper, and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to send it and let me just write down that this is another one of the reasons why I'm leaving, because this is insane. You're only concerned about yourself and you're not concerned about any of the other staff in the office. That's just crazy. So that job right there, I wasn't worried about walking away from that one either. And it was an abrupt departure. So those are my examples of some abrupt departures. I really didn't think that I had done any door slams that were more slow, but I was talking to a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago, and she said that most of the door slams that she's done in her life have been slow, and so I kind of started thinking about it, and I guess there really have been a couple. Most of my past boyfriends have been abrupt door slams. I am not the type of person that's like, okay, let's be friends. After you're done dating somebody, I'm like, no, I don't. If we're not going to go out, there's no reason for me to be friends with you. There was one guy that I dated. In fact, I've met a lot of guys at work that I've dated, and I would not suggest doing that because once you break up with them, you still have to work with them. So one of the first ones, I think he was actually the second one that I met at work. It was a really bad situation because I realized after I started going out with him that he actually had a girlfriend. So it was really rough for me, and then I still had to work with him. And it turned into, me, I was the secretary in that position, And it was kind of like a real estate office, but they sold businesses as well as real estate. So in that situation, I was just like, went from being incredibly helpful and super friendly to not talking to him and not doing anything for him. And it ended up with me sitting in my boss's office and him going, what's going on? What happened here? You were friends with this guy. And I was like, yeah, I was friends, but we're not friends anymore. It was that was a difficult conversation, and the whole situation was extremely difficult. But basically, it was just me ignoring him until he stopped. And I think he finally left. And then I left not too long after that. There have been a couple of friends as well that I've just kind of, quit responding to, haven't called, haven't really reached out to them. And it seems like they just kind of fade away. And it's kind of a combination, too, of me needing alone time and me needing my own time. And I seem to attract a lot of friends, too, that if I don't reach out to them, then they won't reach out to me, which are not good friends to have anyway. So it usually ends up in that situation where we just quit talking to each other as well. Okay, so let's talk about 5 reasons why you would door slam somebody. The first one is betrayal. Now, betrayal is probably the biggest reason that I have door slammed people. Betrayal is when you tell your friend a secret and they go and tell somebody else. This has happened to me several times. My older sister used to do it to me a lot way before she had her problems. I actually door slammed my youngest sister because she did it to me earlier this year. And it was a big deal what she did, and it really wasn't even targeted at me. It was targeted at one of my other family members. I mean, the whole situation was it just made me realize that she was a terrible narcissistic person. And I don't understand how I missed it, but sometimes it's easy to overlook those things when you're so close to somebody, unfortunately. But betrayal is a really big reason to door slam somebody, because as INFJs, we give so much to other people, and deep down, we really expect other people to give some of that back. Maybe not all of it, but at least some of it. We are really big on loyalty, so when somebody betrays us, it's a really big thing that's really hard to come back from. And as far as my little sister goes, I did confront her about it, which was really hard for me. But I did confront her, and because I wanted to have her side of the situation. And I was really hoping that it was all a misunderstanding and, that she was going to say, no, that's not what happened. But no, what really happened was she was like, you did it to yourself. This is all your fault. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. I get it. Enough said. So betrayal is reason number 1. Reason number 2 is kind of tied into reason number 1. That would be toxic people or narcissistic people. So I think of narcissists when I think of people who are toxic. Now, narcissist is a term that's pretty popular these days. And up until recently, I have to admit, I didn't really know what it meant. So let's review, just in case you're shaking your head like you understand, but you're also reaching for Google at the same time, like I was. So a basic definition of a narcissist is someone who thinks about themselves more than anyone else and puts themselves first all the time. And they're always manipulating people to get what they want. So an example of this for me is my older sister. She was always using me to get what she wanted. She wouldn't say, would you do this or can you do this for me? She would say, do this for me. Like there wasn't any question about it. It was like, you are doing this for me. Not, hey, can you help me with something? But you have to do this for me. There were a lot of situations where she blamed me for a lot of things. She was always getting me into some kind of trouble too. When we were growing up, there was always some kind of scheme that she had going on, and I usually ended up with the brunt of the trouble. So it also involves doing things like making me think that I was crazy or that I was wrong about something, that I hadn't remembered something correctly. So like she was trying to rewrite how things turned out. And then she didn't want anything to do with me when I finally started saying no to her. So that's what a narcissist is. So another reason to door slam somebody, so this would be reason number 3, is a past significant other. And we kind of talked about this a little bit before. I have always door slammed people that I have broken up with or have broken up with me. I've never, ever been friends with a past boyfriend. And I don't really understand the concept. I mean, every time I've broken up with somebody or been dumped, I didn't want anything to do with them ever again. I didn't want to see them, didn't want to talk to them, didn't want to hear about them. Once it's over, it's just over. And I really feel like if you still want to be friends after it's over, that maybe it's not really over for either one of you or both of you. Every time I was forced to be around somebody that I used to date, it was like torture. So I learned the hard way that you shouldn't date people that you work with, because when it goes wrong, you still have to see them every day. Like I talked about before, it can be super awkward, and it can get you into trouble too, like it got me into trouble. The trouble that I was in could have been a lot worse, actually. So another reason that you would door slam somebody is somebody that uses you or takes advantage of you. And this can happen with betrayal, it can happen with narcissistic people, but sometimes it happens with people who seem like they're good friends to you. I've had some friends who only seem to be there when they need a graphic designer or they need somebody to volunteer for something. They know that I'm a good graphic designer. They know that I'll go above and beyond for them. And then they know that I'll always show up for them whenever they need me. I'm the type of friend that one of my friends who lived a couple hours drive away from me called me one afternoon, and she was like, "Hey, can you come to town this evening?" She's like, I have this event that I want you to go to, and I would really appreciate it if you would come to town. And I was like, sure. And I dropped everything that I was doing and drove 2 hours to go and have dinner with her. I mean, that's just the type of friend that I am. There are some type of friends who will take advantage of you, though. When you start saying no to, doing extra projects for them or volunteering for something that they need, aside from those things, they don't really even know that you exist. That's why it's important to realize that these type of people aren't real friends. And you can spend a lot of time and energy trying to be friends with these people who don't really value you or your friendship. Those are the kind of people that, maybe a slow and steady door slam would be a good way to go. Once you start to realize your value and that you deserve better, then you won't need those kind of people in your life. You won't have to put so much effort into making friends with people. Because it seems like there have been several people in my life that I found this person and I've been like, oh, I really want to be friends with that person. They're super cool. And so I've put all this time and energy into trying to be friends with them, and it never really goes anywhere because they're not interested in being friends with me. So those are the kind of situations where it's like, okay, it's time to take a step back and stop and say, listen, they only want to be friends because there's something that I do that benefits them, and there really isn't like a mutual give and take there. So reason number 5 is someone who drains your energy. As INFJs and empaths, it's important, so important for us to keep close tabs on our energy, our physical energy, and our emotional energy. It's so easy for us to get worn out physically and emotionally. Most of us INFJs are people pleasers. We go way out of our way to do things to help people that we like and that we care about. If we're not careful, though, we can spend the majority of our time and energy on doing things like this, things that may not really serve us or benefit us at all. It could be as simple as having a friend who's loud and needy and who won't stop talking or who won't take no for an answer. Or it could be a friend who uses you as a counselor, always going on and on about their problems, but never asking you about any of your problems. And it's important to make sure that the company that we keep are people who are bringing us joy and happiness, not just taking away all of our energy and then leaving. So people who drain your energy are definitely the type of people that you need to door slam. Now, what do you do when your friends and family don't agree with your choice to door slam somebody? You've made this huge decision to cut somebody out of your life, and it's not an easy thing to do. You have to spend a lot of time and energy on going through all the options and trying to figure something else out, but nothing else works. So you make the decision, you have to cut them out, and then you actually do finally cut them out, and then you go through all of the emotions of doing that. And then come the comments from the peanut gallery. Your mom starts with something like, I hope you and Sally are able to work things out. I know you've been friends for all these years. You should talk to her and work things out. Or your friend says, why haven't you spoken to Jordan? He's been asking me about you. What's going on? And you try to explain, but then the inevitable, don't you think that's a little bit harsh? Or, she's your grandma. You really should call her. Or, I'm hanging out with Peggy whether you like it or not. So if you want to hang out with me, then you have to hang out with her. You get the idea, right? It's not always a simple cut and dry situation. Sometimes it's kind of sticky. One thing, though, that you have to remember is that not all personality types use the door slam method. They may not even understand it. Some thinking personality types don't have the type of emotions that we do, or they just aren't as affected the same way that we are by them. They may not see the situation the same way that we would, so they don't understand. They may not even try to understand either, no matter how hard you try to explain it to them. So it's important for us in these situations to set boundaries. Make sure that you stand your ground. It's something new that your friends and family are going to have to get used to. They may or may not understand, and it's okay if they don't understand. They can only understand to their level of understanding anyway. What's important is that they respect your decision and what it means to you and your remaining friendships. You aren't asking them to walk away from Sally or Peggy or Jordan. You're asking them to respect the fact that you have walked away from them and you don't want to be around them anymore. They don't have to agree with you. They just have to respect your decision. So what do you do if you change your mind or you want to give this person that you've door slammed another chance? Honestly, I can't say that I've ever given somebody another chance, but I have heard of people who've done it. In that situation, it's entirely up to you. I can only advise you to go slowly and to be careful. Remember that there was a reason that you door slammed them in the first place. Some people do change though, so giving them a second chance isn't always a bad thing. I would just advise you to be careful and to take it slow. Now, what do you do in the aftermath of a door slam? Something that a lot of people don't talk about is what to do in the aftermath of a door slam. If you cut somebody out of your life, especially if it is someone significant to you, how do you deal with that? When I cut my sister out of my life, I felt like she was dead. And most of the time, I actually refer to her in the past tense. She is still alive, just not to me. But I felt like I had lost my best friend. I mean, I had. She meant a lot to me. We hung out all the time. We went to dinner together almost every single night. We were always doing something together. And we talked about everything. I learned a lot of the most important things from her, like how to shave my legs and how to talk to guys and things like that. I also learned a lot of what not to do, which I am also thankful for. But one day, she had hurt me too badly, and I decided that enough was enough. Even though she had hurt me many, many times, I still missed her like crazy. It was like I was mourning the loss of somebody in my life, because I really was. So what do you do when you're in this situation? What do you do when you've cut somebody important out of your life? What are the steps that you need to take? So the first one is take time to grieve. When you cut somebody out of your life, it really is like a death. You need to take some time to grieve the loss of them in your life. Give yourself some grace for a while. Don't try to suppress all of the feelings. Take some time to really feel them, to feel the loss, the sadness, and the ickiness. Deal with it so that it doesn't come back later. The next thing that you need to do is take some time for self-care. Spend some time doing something that you like, some kind of self-care. It's important to the healing process as well. Spend some time pampering yourself and replenishing all of the things that have been neglected. The next thing is recognize your mistakes and learn from them. Spend some time in reflection to realize what really happened. And be honest with yourself about the situation. That is one of the hardest things to do. It took me a couple of years to be able to look back and say, okay, why did this happen? What actually happened? And maybe part of it was actually my fault. It was because I didn't believe that I deserved any better than what I had, than what I was getting from her. When in reality, I do deserve a lot better. And if I would have realized it back then, I could have put a stop to the way that she was treating me a lot sooner than I actually did. So make sure that you take some time to really look at the situation and recognize what happened, and not only how the person that you door slammed was treating you, but how you responded to them as well. The next thing that you need to do is focus your energy somewhere else. Replace the time that you had spent with this person doing something that you love to do. Is there some project that you have been planning that you are ready to take up now again? Is there something new that you want to start doing? Now is the perfect time. Spend some time doing something positive and focus all of your energy on that change. And number 5, remember the good times. It's been a long time since I was talking to my sister, almost 10 years now. I've gotten past most of the hurt and most of the why did you do this? Even though it's been such a long time, I try to remember the good times that we had together and not think so much about the bad times. I would much rather remember the pleasant memories or none at all than to think about all the bad things over and over again. That's about it. That's all I know about door slams and what to do in the aftermath. I really hope this helps you sort through some of these situations in your life. It's never easy doing something like this or sorting through what to do afterward, but sometimes it's the only thing that you can do. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate every single one of you. Please make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already, and leave a review wherever you listen to the podcast. It helps other people to be able to find us. Thanks again for listening, and I will see you again next week. Hi there! I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Please consider subscribing to my channel. I'm working very hard to produce content that will help you, and I really, really appreciate your support. Also, if you want some more inspiration, check out this video right here.